Welcome to Ethoria Channel.
Warning. This is not a story for your eyes. No clips, no effects, just a voice, and the silence between the sentences. If that feels empty, maybe you're not ready to hear yourself yet. But if you are, stay. I don't want your attention. I want your honesty. No visual tricks. Nothing to hold your focus except what you hear. Because this time, your attention isn't meant to go outward, but inward. This video isn't here to teach you something. It's here to remind you of what you already know, but keep running from. If you're driving, walking, or just somewhere between two thoughts, let this story sink in. Because maybe for the first time, you won't be able to run from yourself. Ready? Let's begin. Previously on The Archaeology of Self. In the first part, we discovered who we are. In the second, we excavated our layers. The third, we'll learn to disappear where we need to. Episode 1 was about recognizing you're buried. Episode 2 gave you the excavation map. Episode 3 teaches you the sacred art of strategic withdrawal. You know who you are, but the moment you open your eyes, you're playing a role again. Your boss expects, your mother demands, your friends take, and everything you excavated from yourself gets buried again. Meet Rebecca. 6 months ago, she completed her archaeological excavation. She knew who she was beneath all the layers. She had identified her authentic desires, her real values, her original face. She felt triumphant. Then, Monday morning came. Her boss needed her to work late on a project that violated everything she'd discovered about herself. Her mother called expecting the same youthful daughter performance. Her friends demanded the same social energy she'd always provided. Within a week, she was back to performing, back to people-pleasing, back to being everyone else's version of who she should be. Her excavation had been perfect. Her protection protocol was non-existent. Here's the brutal truth no archaeologist wants to admit. Finding your authentic self is only half the battle. Keeping it alive in a world that wants to bury it again, that's where most people lose the war. The most dangerous moment in your archaeological journey isn't when you don't know who you are. It's when you know exactly who you are, but haven't learned how to disappear from everyone who wants you to be someone else. Why authenticity without invisibility is suicide. You've done the work. You know who you are now. You can distinguish between your voice and theirs, between your desires and their expectations, between your truth and their comfort. Knowing who you are and being able to live as who you are in a world full of people who benefit from your performance. Those are two entirely different excavations. Consider Marcus. After months of archaeological work, he discovered his authentic self was an artist, not the lawyer his family expected. He knew this truth with crystalline clarity. But every family dinner became a battlefield. Every conversation with his father was a guilt session about wasted potential. Every holiday was an intervention about getting serious about life. Marcus knew who he was, but he hadn't learned how to become unavailable to their version of who he should be. The result? He started painting in secret, lying about his art shows, hiding his authentic life like it was shameful. His authenticity became a burden he carried in shadows rather than a light he lived in openly. This is what happens when you excavate without learning to disappear. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote about the gaze of the other, how we become objects under other people's expectations rather than subjects of our own lives. Michel Foucault explored how social surveillance shapes behavior even when no one is watching. Both understood a fundamental truth. Authenticity without strategic withdrawal is performance in disguise. You think you're being authentic, but you're actually just performing authenticity for an audience that will never approve. Here's the paradox that will restructure your understanding of freedom. The more available you are to everyone else's opinions, the less available you become to your own truth. The more findable you are by their expectations, the more lost you become to yourself. The more present you are for their comfort, the more absent you become from your own life. Authentic living isn't about being yourself around others. It's about creating conditions where your authentic self can exist without having to constantly defend itself. The sacred art. 5 types of strategic disappearing. Most people think disappearing means running away. But sacred disappearing is different. It's not about hiding from the world. It's about becoming selectively invisible to the forces that want to bury your authentic self. Just as Episode 2 mapped the 5 layers of your buried self, Episode 3 maps the 5 types of strategic withdrawal that protect what you've excavated. Type 1, energetic, protecting yourself from others' emotional burdens. Type 2, intellectual, refusing meaningless debates. Type 3, social, choosing where to show your true face. Type 4, digital, authenticity instead of approval seeking. Type 5, expectational, living your script, not theirs. Type 1, energetic disappearing, becoming unavailable to other people's emotional weather. What it looks like: not absorbing other people's anxiety, anger, or chaos, refusing to be the emotional regulator for unstable people, creating energetic boundaries that others can't cross, becoming immune to manipulation through guilt or drama. The sacred practice. Think of Elena, who discovered that her empathic nature was actually emotional codependency. She was absorbing everyone's feelings and making them her responsibility. After learning energetic disappearing, she became what she calls compassionately detached. When her drama-addicted friend called with the latest crisis, Elena listened without absorbing. She cared without carrying. She was present without becoming a dumping ground. "I love you, and I trust you to handle this," came her new response, instead of "let me fix this for you." The energetic withdrawal protocol. Before engaging with emotionally volatile people, visualize yourself surrounded by a permeable membrane. Love can flow through, but chaos cannot penetrate. You're present to their humanity, but unavailable to their dysfunction. The test. When someone is upset around you, notice: do you automatically take on their emotional state? That's where you need energetic disappearing. Master level. You can be in a room full of anxiety without becoming anxious. You can love someone having a breakdown without breaking down yourself. Type 2. Intellectual disappearing. Becoming unavailable to debates that don't serve your evolution. What it looks like: refusing to argue with people who aren't genuinely curious, not defending your choices to people who've already decided they're wrong, withdrawing from conversations designed to change your mind rather than understand it, becoming impossible to provoke into reactive debates. The sacred practice. Consider David, who spent years trying to convince his traditional family that his artistic path was valid. He prepared arguments, gathered evidence, fought battle after battle to prove his choices were legitimate. After learning intellectual disappearing, David simply stopped engaging in those conversations. "I'm not available for discussions about my life choices," became his standard response. Not angry, not defensive, just unavailable. The intellectual withdrawal protocol. When someone tries to pull you into a debate about your authentic choices, ask yourself, is this person genuinely seeking to understand, or are they seeking to change my mind? If it's the latter, become intellectually invisible. I understand you see it differently. I'm comfortable with my choice. And then change the subject or leave the conversation. The test. Do you find yourself constantly explaining and defending your authentic choices? That's where you need intellectual disappearing. Master level. You can hear criticism of your life without feeling compelled to justify your existence. Type 3. Social disappearing. Becoming selectively invisible to social expectations, what it looks like. Not attending events that drain your authentic energy, refusing to participate in social theater that feels meaningless, withdrawing from groups where you have to perform to belong, becoming unavailable to social pressure and FOMO, the sacred practice. Think of Sophia, who realized that 80% of her social life was performance. Parties where she felt obligated to be fun Sophia. Work events where she had to network and schmooze. Family gatherings where she played the role of successful daughter. After learning social disappearing, Sophia began what she calls strategic absence. She stopped going to events that required her to perform. She became unavailable to social obligations that felt like emotional labor. The result? The people who truly wanted to know her started reaching out individually. The relationships that were built on her performance simply faded away. The social withdrawal protocol. Before accepting any social invitation, ask, can I be authentically myself in this space, or will I need to perform? If it's performance, practice sacred disappearing. Thank you for the invitation. I won't be able to make it without elaborate explanations or apologies. The test. Do you leave social events feeling drained rather than energized? That's where you need social disappearing. Master level. You only show up where your authentic presence is welcomed, not where your performance is demanded. Type 4. Digital disappearing. Becoming invisible to the online performance economy. What it looks like. Curating your digital presence to reflect authenticity, not approval seeking. Becoming unavailable to online arguments and digital drama. Withdrawing from platforms that reward performance over presence. Creating boundaries around your digital availability. The sacred practice. Marcus discovered that his social media had become a highlight reel of the life he thought people wanted to see, not the life he was actually living. His authentic artistic journey was messy, uncertain, full of failures and small victories that didn't photograph well. After learning digital disappearing, Marcus began sharing the real story. The failed paintings. The financial struggles. The days when he questioned everything. Paradoxically, this authentic sharing created deeper connections than his polished performance ever had. The digital withdrawal protocol. Audit your online presence. What percentage is authentic expression versus approval-seeking performance? Begin gradually shifting toward truth-telling rather than image management. Become unavailable to digital arguments. I respect that you see it differently and move. on without engaging further. The test. Do you craft your online presence to impress others or to express yourself? That's where you need digital disappearing. Master level. Your digital presence is a reflection of your authentic journey, not a marketing campaign for your ego. Type 5. Expectational disappearing. Becoming unavailable to other people's scripts for your life. What it looks like. Refusing to live according to other people's timelines. Withdrawing from family, cultural scripts about success, relationships, life paths. Becoming immune to should statements from others. Living your life as an original rather than a sequel to their expectations. The sacred practice. Rebecca realized that even after her archaeological excavation, she was still unconsciously trying to live up to her mother's definition of what a good daughter looked like. Her career choices, relationship decisions, even her living situation were influenced by invisible expectations. After learning expectational disappearing, Rebecca began making choices from her own center rather than their comfort. When her mother expressed disappointment about her unconventional life choices, Rebecca's response became, "I understand this isn't what you envisioned for me. I'm living the life that feels authentic to who I am." The expectational withdrawal protocol. When making major life decisions, ask, whose expectations am I trying to fulfill? If the answer is anyone other than your authentic self, practice disappearing from those expectations. I know this isn't what you expected. I'm choosing what feels right for me. The test. Do your life choices feel like you're following someone else's blueprint? That's where you need expectational disappearing. Master level. You make life decisions based on your authentic knowing rather than their inherited expectations. The paradox of visibility through invisibility. Here's what will break your mind about strategic disappearing. The more unavailable you become to their false versions of you, the more available you become to people who want to know the real you. More you disappear from performances, the more visible your authentic self becomes. The more selectively invisible you become, the more powerfully present you are when you do show up. This isn't antisocial behavior. It's archaeological protection. You're not avoiding people. You're avoiding the dynamic where people expect you to be someone you're not. Consider the transformation of James, who practiced all 5 types of disappearing for 6 months. Before disappearing. Available to everyone's emotional needs, except his own. Constantly defending his life choices to skeptical family. Attending social events where he felt invisible. Performing success on social media while feeling empty inside. Living according to his father's timeline for his life. After disappearing, energetically unavailable to drama but fully present for genuine connection. Intellectually unavailable to debates but open to real conversations. Socially selective, only engaging where his authentic self was welcomed. Digitally honest about his real journey, including struggles and questions. Expectationally free, making choices from his own center. The result? James didn't lose relationships, he deepened them. The people who were attracted to his performance faded away. The people who were interested in his authentic self came closer. His energy increased because he wasn't constantly managing other people's opinions. His confidence grew because he was living from his own truth rather than their approval. The sacred mathematics of disappearing. Subtract false connections, multiply authentic ones. Divide your energy among fewer people, increase the depth of every relationship. Reduce your availability to everyone, increase your essentiality to yourself. The 7-Day Invisibility Protocol. Unlike Episode 2's 21-day excavation, this protocol is intense and short. 7 days of strategic disappearing to establish new patterns of protective authenticity. Day 1. Energetic Boundary Installation Practice. The Emotional Firewall. Morning Intention. Today I practice caring without carrying. The exercise. Throughout the day, when someone shares emotional drama, practice this response. That sounds really difficult. I trust you to handle it. Then breathe deeply and release their emotional state from your body. Evening review. Notice how many times you automatically absorbed someone else's emotional weather. Practice energetic disappearing for each instance. Advanced practice. Spend 10 minutes visualizing yourself surrounded by a semi-permeable membrane. Love flows through, chaos bounces off. Day 1. Mantra. I am compassionately detached. Day 2. Intellectual sovereignty establishment. Practice. The debate boycott morning intention. Today I refuse to defend what doesn't need defending. The exercise. Every time someone tries to argue with your authentic choices, practice intellectual disappearing. I understand you see it differently. I'm comfortable with my choice. Then redirect or disengage. The challenge. Count how many times someone tries to pull you into defending your authenticity. Practice becoming unavailable to each attempt. Evening review. Notice how much mental energy you usually spend justifying your existence to people who've already decided you're wrong. Day 2. Mantra. My choices don't require your approval. Day 3. Social Curation Intensive. Practice. The Authenticity Filter. Morning Intention. Today I only show up where my real self is welcomed. The exercise. Before every social interaction, ask, can I be authentically myself here, or will I need to perform? If it's performance, practice disappearing. The reality check. Notice how many of your social obligations are actually authentic desires versus performance expectations. Evening review. How did it feel to only engage socially when you could be real? What relationships deepened? Which ones revealed themselves as performance-based? Day 3. Mantra. I only show up where I can be real. Day 4. Digital Authenticity. Audit Practice. The Truth-Telling Recalibration. Morning Intention. Today, my digital presence reflects my real journey. The exercise. Audit your social media. What percentage is authentic expression versus image management? Begin shifting toward honest sharing about your real experience. The Vulnerability Challenge. Share one authentic struggle or uncertainty instead of a polished highlight. Evening review. Notice the difference between posting for approval versus posting for authentic expression. Day 4 mantra. My online presence tells my real story. Day 5. Expectational emancipation practice. The script. Burning ceremony. Morning intention. Today I make choices from my center, not their comfort. The exercise. Identify one major life area where you're still following someone else's script. Career, relationships, lifestyle, timeline. Practice making one small choice from your authentic knowing rather than their expectations. The liberation practice. When someone expresses disappointment about your authentic choices, practice. I know this isn't what you expected. I'm choosing what feels right for me. Evening review. Notice how much of your life is still organized around other people's definitions of success, happiness, or appropriateness. Day 5. Mantra. I live my life, not their sequel. Day 6. Integrated disappearing mastery. Practice. The coordinated withdrawal. Morning intention. Today I practice all 5 types of disappearing simultaneously. The exercise. Throughout the day, practice energetic unavailability to drama, intellectual unavailability to pointless debates, social unavailability to performance-based interactions, digital unavailability to approval seeking, expectational unavailability to their scripts. The Master Challenge. Notice how practicing all 5 types simultaneously creates a field of authentic protection around you. Evening review. How did it feel to be strategically unavailable to everything that wants to bury your authentic self? Day 6. Mantra. I am available to my truth, unavailable to their performance. Day 7. Emergence integration practice. The visibility through invisibility. Morning intention. Today I notice how disappearing from the false makes me visible to the true. The exercise. Practice being fully present in interactions where your authentic self is welcomed while remaining completely unavailable to interactions that require performance. The observation practice. Notice how strategic disappearing actually increases the quality of your connections rather than decreasing the quantity. Evening review. Reflect on how 7 days of disappearing has affected your relationships, energy levels, and connection to your authentic self. Day 7. Mantra. Strategic invisibility creates authentic visibility. The emergence. What happens when you master sacred disappearing? After practicing strategic disappearing, something profound shifts in your entire existence. You stop being a reactive participant in other people's dramas and become a conscious creator of your own experience. The energy revolution. When you're no longer available to everyone's emotional weather, your natural energy returns. You're not constantly drained by other people's chaos. You have energy for your own growth, creativity, and authentic pursuits. Sarah discovered this after 3 months of energetic disappearing. I used to come home exhausted every day and I thought it was because of work. But it wasn't work draining me. It was absorbing everyone's anxiety, frustration, and drama all day long. Now I come home energized. The relationship purification. Strategic disappearing acts like a filter. Relationships. based on your performance naturally fade away. Relationships based on authentic connection deepen and flourish. Marcus noticed this pattern. The people who were upset that I became unavailable were the people who were using me for emotional labor, free therapy, or validation. The people who respected my boundaries became closer friends than ever. The creative explosion. When you're not spending mental and emotional energy managing other people's opinions about your choices, that energy becomes available for creation, innovation, and authentic expression. Rebecca started writing the novel she'd been too busy to write for years. I wasn't too busy, she realized. I was too available to everyone else's needs to have space for my own creativity. The authentic magnetism. People who are genuinely interested in authentic connection are drawn to those who practice strategic disappearing. Your selectivity becomes attractive to others who value depth over surface interaction. The confidence amplification. When you stop defending your authentic choices to people who will never understand them, your confidence in those choices grows exponentially. You begin trusting your own judgment more than their approval. James described it this way. I spent years trying to convince my family that my unconventional career path was valid. When I stopped trying to convince them and just lived it confidently, they actually started respecting it more. The peace cultivation. Perhaps most importantly, strategic disappearing creates an internal sense of peace that comes from no longer being at war with yourself to please others. You're aligned with your authentic truth and protected from forces that want to compromise it. The advanced disappearing arts. Once you've mastered the basic 5 types of disappearing, there are advanced practices that create even deeper levels of authentic protection. The art of energetic sovereignty. Advanced energetic disappearing. This involves developing what spiritual traditions call unshakable presence. The ability to remain centered in your authentic energy, regardless of the emotional chaos around you. The practice. Develop your own energetic signature, a way of being that remains constant whether you're alone or in a crowd, whether people approve or disapprove, whether the situation is calm or chaotic. The master level. You become like a mountain, present and solid, but unmoved by the weather patterns that pass over you. Elena mastered this during a particularly toxic family gathering. Instead of leaving, physical disappearing, or arguing, engaging, she remained fully present but energetically unavailable to the dysfunction. I was there but not there, she described. I could love them without taking on their chaos. The art of selective transparency. Advanced social disappearing. This involves becoming strategically vulnerable, sharing your authentic truth with people who can handle it while remaining invisible to those who would use your vulnerability against you. The practice. Develop the ability to sense who is safe for authentic sharing and who requires surface-level interaction. Not everyone deserves access to your depth. The master level. You can be completely authentic without being completely transparent with everyone. Marcus learned this when he stopped sharing his artistic struggles with family members who used his vulnerability as evidence that he should get a real job. Instead, he found other artists who understood the journey and could offer genuine support. The art of loving detachment. This involves maintaining love and compassion for people while remaining emotionally unavailable to their dysfunction. It's the difference between caring about someone and carrying their problems. The practice. Learn to love people without feeling responsible for their happiness, choices, or emotional regulation. The master level. You can watch someone you love make choices you disagree with without abandoning your love or abandoning your boundaries. David practiced this with his parents, who constantly worried about his unstable artistic career. Instead of trying to reassure them or getting defensive, he learned to say, "I love you, and I know this is hard for you. I need you to trust me with my own life." The art of temporal disappearing, advanced time boundary management. This involves becoming unavailable to other people's timelines and urgencies, while remaining available to your own natural rhythms and priorities. The idea practice. Distinguish between genuine emergencies and manufactured urgency. Most urgent requests are attempts to make you available to their poor planning or anxiety. The master level. You respond to true emergencies while remaining unavailable to artificial deadlines and manipulative urgency. Sophia mastered this at work, where she was constantly asked to drop everything for urgent projects that turned out to be management's lack of planning. She began asking, "Help me understand why this couldn't be planned in advance, and what are the actual consequences if this waits until my scheduled availability?" The resistance to your disappearing. When you begin practicing strategic disappearing, the resistance will be immediate and sophisticated. People who benefited from your constant availability will not give up easily. The guilt campaign. They'll try to make you feel selfish for having boundaries, antisocial for being selective, and uncaring for refusing to absorb their emotional weather. What? They'll say, "You're becoming so cold and distant. You never have time for anyone anymore. Success has changed you, and not in a good way. You used to be so caring." What they really mean. Your unavailability to my dysfunction is inconvenient to my patterns. Your response. I care deeply, which is why I'm being honest about my limits rather than pretending I have none. The abandonment theater. They'll dramatically interpret your boundaries as rejection and your selectivity as abandonment. What they'll say. Fine. I guess our relationship doesn't matter to you. You're just going to disappear from everyone who cares about you. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. What they really mean. I'm using emotional manipulation to pull you back into dysfunctional patterns. Your response. My boundaries aren't about rejecting you. They're about being authentic in our relationship. The emergency escalation. They'll create or amplify crises to test whether your disappearing is permanent or whether they can still access your unlimited availability through drama. What they'll do. Manufacture urgent situations that require your immediate attention. Escalate normal problems into catastrophes. Use phrases like, "I really need you right now," for non-emergencies. What they really mean. I'm testing whether I can still manipulate you through manufactured urgency. Your response. Ask clarifying questions. Help me understand what specifically you need, and what would happen if this waited until specific time. The social pressure campaign. They'll recruit others to convince you that your disappearing is problematic, unhealthy, or harmful to relationships. What they'll do. Tell mutual friends that you've changed. Organize interventions about your antisocial behavior. Use group settings to pressure you back into old patterns what they really mean. I'm using social pressure because individual manipulation isn't working. Your response: I appreciate your concern. I'm actually healthier and more authentic than I've ever been. The future fear projection. They'll predict dire consequences for your strategic disappearing, social isolation, professional damage, relationship destruction. What they'll say: you're going to end up alone if you keep this up. This attitude will hurt your career. People will stop inviting you to things. What they really mean: I'm using your fear of consequences to control your behavior. Your response: I'd rather be alone as myself than surrounded by people who only accept my performance. Your disappearing toolkit. The daily invisibility practices. Morning energetic protection, 5 minutes. Before engaging with anyone, visualize yourself surrounded by a selective membrane. Set the intention: I am available to authentic connection, unavailable to performance demands. Midday boundary check, 2 minutes. Ask yourself, what am I available to right now? What am I unavailable to? Adjust your energy accordingly. Evening disappearing review, 3 minutes. Reflect: when did I disappear strategically today? When did I make myself too available? What did I learn? The weekly invisibility intensive Sunday planning session. Review your upcoming week. Identify which interactions will require energetic protection, which social obligations you can disappear from, which conversations you'll be intellectually unavailable to, which expectations you'll withdraw from. Wednesday midweek. Adjustment. Notice: are you being too available to drama? Too visible to dysfunction? Course correct with strategic disappearing. Saturday integration practice. Spend time in spaces where your authentic self is fully welcomed. Notice the difference between this and spaces where you need to disappear strategically. The monthly invisibility evolution. First week, focus on energetic disappearing. Second week, emphasize intellectual unavailability. Third week, practice social selectivity. Fourth week, integrate all types of disappearing. Emergency. Disappearing protocols. When someone tries to pull you into drama: I can see this is really important to you. I'm not the best person to help with this right now. Then physically or energetically withdraw. When someone argues with your authentic choices: I understand you see it differently. I'm comfortable with my decision. Repeat as necessary, without elaboration. When social pressure builds: thank you for your concern. I'm making choices that feel right for me. Then redirect or disengage when family cultural expectations surface. I know this isn't what you expected. I'm choosing what aligns with who I am. No justification needed. The mastery. Disappearing without disappearing. The ultimate mastery of sacred disappearing is learning to be simultaneously fully present and strategically invisible. You're available to authentic connection while unavailable to dysfunction. You're visible to truth while invisible to manipulation. This is the paradox of advanced authenticity. The more selectively invisible you become, the more powerfully present you are when you do show up. Consider the transformation of Lisa, who mastered all forms of strategic disappearing over the course of a year. Before, available to everyone's emotional needs, engaged in every family drama, present at every social obligation, defending every authentic choice, living according to inherited expectations. After. Energetically protected but emotionally open, socially selective but deeply connected, intellectually sovereign but genuinely curious, digitally authentic but strategically private, expectationally free but relationally committed. The result, Lisa's relationships became deeper, her energy increased dramatically, her creative work flourished, and her confidence became unshakable. She didn't lose people, she gained herself. "I thought disappearing would make me isolated," Lisa reflected. "Instead, it made me essential. When I became unavailable to everyone, I became essential to myself. And when you're essential to yourself, you become magnetic to others who value authenticity." The sacred mathematics of mastery. Be 100% available to your authentic self. Be 0% available to others' false versions of you. Be selectively available to those who appreciate your truth. Be completely unavailable to those who require your performance. This creates what advanced practitioners call authentic magnetism, the ability to attract genuine connection while repelling superficial manipulation. The integration, living as sacred disappearing. 6 months after learning strategic disappearing, something profound happens. You stop thinking about it consciously and start living it naturally. Your boundaries become internal rather than external. Your authenticity becomes protected not through effort, but through natural selectivity. The daily reality. You wake up each morning knowing exactly who you are and what you're available to. You move through your day with energetic sovereignty, intellectual freedom, social selectivity, digital authenticity, and expectational independence. The relationship reality. Your connections are based on mutual authenticity rather than mutual convenience. People in your life appreciate your truth rather than demanding your performance. The creative reality. Your energy is available for creation, innovation, and authentic expression rather than emotional labor for others' dysfunction. The spiritual reality. You live from your center rather than your edges. You respond from your truth rather than their expectations. This is what it means to master the sacred art of disappearing. You become visible to what matters while invisible to what doesn't. Your sacred disappearing conclusion. You came to episode 3 knowing who you are but struggling to protect that authenticity in a world that wants to bury it. You're leaving with the sacred art of strategic disappearing, the ability to become selectively invisible to forces that would compromise your truth. The 5 types of sacred disappearing: energetic, unavailable to emotional chaos. Intellectual, unavailable to pointless debates. Social, unavailable to performance-based interactions. Digital, unavailable to approval-seeking online. Expectational, unavailable to inherited scripts. Remember, strategic disappearing isn't about avoiding the world, it's about curating your availability so that when you do show up, you can show up authentically. Episode mantra. When I become unavailable to everyone, I become essential to myself. Stop now and answer one question for yourself. What are you ready to become unavailable to today? Pause the video now. Write the answer in black and white. What am I ready to disappear from today? And now, say it out loud. To yourself. To your mirror. Because once you disappear from their version of you, You finally appear in your own. If this episode served you, stay with me. Every day, a new layer and a new step toward your authentic self. You've learned to excavate your authentic self and protect it through strategic disappearing. But there's one more layer of your archaeological journey that most people never discover, the shadow self that holds your greatest power. Tomorrow we explore shadow self, the dark parts of you that might be your greatest strength. What's one thing you're ready to disappear from strategically? Write me in the comments, what are you ready to disappear from? All integration protocols are here in this video. If you're just joining us, start with episode 1, links in the description. Join the archaeological expedition, hit subscribe and the bell. Because you can't live authentically until you learn to disappear from everything that wants to bury you. Your authentic self is no longer just excavated, it's protected. Time to discover the treasure hidden in your shadows. Until tomorrow, stay unavailable, become yourself.